In this episode of Kids Podcast, I am honored to share wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Dealing with kids is hard work, and I'm praying that we add some tools to your tool belt today. So let's dive into today's topic. Welcome to another episode of Kids Podcast, where I talk to leaders and parents who are leaders of kids and children and help them be successful in the church and at home. And so in today's episode, we're talking about recommendations, because in the past we've recommended books, we've recommended conferences, and I had a listener question. Yes, sir. I love listener questions, and I'm happy to answer them, whether I type it in or do a whole podcast on it. And this one was so good that I was like, I'm going to do a podcast on this topic. Yes, sir. Yes. And so the question is what recommendations for conferences and training and resources do you have for volunteers? Volunteers. This is non-staff, non-pastors, people that are helping in your program, people that are helping in your church, people that are helping in whatever it is. And so if you're a kids pastor or a youth pastor and you have volunteers, this is ideal for you. I got broken down in two parts, my 2 cents on the matter, and then actual recommendations. So here's what I got to say. All right. There are not many, if any, conferences and retreats that are designated solely to volunteers. At least not that I'm aware of, not that I've ever seen in my 20, my many moons of ministry, I have not seen or heard of anything like that, where it's solely dedicated to a volunteer. And I have my predictions on why. My first is the return on investment. That's really hard to sell. Like, hey, we're going to put on an entire conference for a bunch of volunteers, and then you don't even know if they're going to be available because they're volunteers. You have to rely on the church to pay for them. You have to rely for themselves to pay for them. And then you have to rely on them giving up work time, family time, their weekend fishing time in order to be a part of such a conference. And if they're anything like me, I'm not giving up my fishing for no conference. I'm going to go fishing. But ideally, I just see that this is going to be a hard return on investment when you compare it to their availability to attend this thing. So my second thought is that those that are planning conferences, they're already high capacity leaders that are planning a high capacity conference for other high capacity leaders. And in that mindset, they're not going to be offering training for low capacity leaders only. They're going to be offering training that builds from low to medium to high. And let me explain that a little bit, because I just said something about capacities and low, medium, high. This is a thing, whether you talk about locus of control in leadership or graphic design when it comes to opacity, not capacity. There are different types of leaders that can do different types of things, that can accomplish different amounts of task. And this is kind of the gauge of a low, middle, and high. This is how or why you would not take a volunteer kids leader and hire them to be the president of the United States of America. One is a low capacity leader. Although they are a leader, they're not low capacity. They are a low capacity leader. They're not equipped, qualified, ready to mentally handle the stress and pressure and task management of a high capacity role. Now, does that mean a high capacity leader cannot serve? No, that's not what that means. It's just understanding that there are different capacities for leadership, just like there's different opacities for graphic design, just like there are different capacities of fishermen. You got the fisherman that catches only dinks, and then you got fishermen like me who only catches monsters. I'm just playing. I have off days too. But very, very big lesson is that when high capacity leaders are planning these types of events, conferences, retreats, etc., They're doing it with the mindset that I don't want to help a low capacity stay low capacity and be pretty good at low capacity. They're thinking, how do I turn a low capacity leader into a high capacity leader? How do I get them to go from the first step to the second step to the third step to the fourth step to the fifth step? Let me explain some more. I have this one leader, and his name is Mr. Daniel. Maybe you've heard of him. He's on the episode where we talk about baptism, and he helped me talk about that. Now, at one point in our ministry, many moons ago, he was just a helper, and he did things, and yeah, eventually he got involved with being a volunteer for an entire little class. Yeah, did excellent. But he did so good, and we did training, we did resourcing, we did events. He came on retreats with us, and he got better. And even in his daytime job as a teacher, he got better. Everything about his ministry was getting better and better. So we started to give him more and more. We started to trust him with more and more, and his ministry grew. And we started asking him to do more. And eventually, we're going to fast forward to, we get to this point where, you know what? I don't need to lead the kids ministry as the main speaker. Why don't we bring him on as stipend? And he's essentially the elementary pastor. And so that's what we do now. He is the elementary pastor, even though he doesn't have the title of pastor, but he's essentially what he's doing. He directs all of Calvary Kids Elementary. We have someone else who directs all of Calvary Kids 456, our preteen program. And I am more of a family life pastor or a next gen pastor who leads leaders of kids. And I resource them, and I strengthen them, and I encourage them, and I equip them, and I empower them, and that's my role. I don't have to do all those things. I don't have to have my hands dirty or messy or involved, because sometimes raising up leaders is the dirt, the mess, the ministry, the opportunity. And so high capacity leaders don't think about keeping low capacity leaders where they're at. They're thinking, how do I grow them? How do I make them better, stronger, faster, Kanye style? Yes, sir. And so that's what I have to say about trainings and recommendations for volunteers. But to answer the question, here are some practical resources that you can give to your volunteers with the mindset that you want them to grow. And here's what I mean by want them to grow. I want Mr. Daniel to be better at kids ministry than me. I want it. I dream for it. I pray for Mr. Daniel to be so good at it that, man, one day I can just be like, bro, you do it all. I'm going to retire and go do something else for our church, like missions. Yeah, I'll go do anything. I'll go start a whole new kids ministry and thingamabob. We'll create, it doesn't matter. Or maybe he'll be full-time. Yeah, that would be awesome. If he was full-time kids pastor and I was full-time next gen pastor, and then he's training up other kids leaders involved. Yeah, yes. I'm dreaming right now. Like, what would it look like for Mr. Daniel to grow to one day be the best that I've ever seen in his field? That's leadership, my friends. It is not holding people back. It is not stifling. It is not being jealous because they did a good job in one particular thing. It is dreaming for them, celebrating with them, and taking them fishing when they do an awesome job. Yes, sir. Awesome job. So here we go. Practical recommendations you can actually do today if you are the lead in your department and you have volunteers. One, before I do anything else, is I spend time with them. It could be at the bowling alley. It could be at McDonald's over a drink. It could be fishing. That's my particular favorite. I'm just saying. And what I'm doing is trying to gauge secretly their capacity. Sometimes it's a project, like a building project. I've done this before. Well, hey, I'm going to build this closet. I'm going to go build this thing. Come help me. and I kind of let them be involved without doing too much. I already know what I'm doing. I work on the side for construction. If I have questions, I ask that boss. I'm pretty confident on how to build things, and so, but I want to see how other people build things and see how they lead the question and answers and how they go through that. And sometimes they know what they're doing. So then that leads to this idea of just talking with them, spending time with them, and asking questions about their job. Oh, and then you come to realize that, oh, they got a job where they're getting paid way more than I get paid to do a job that has way more responsibilities than I have responsibilities. That may even be in a field that is way more stressful than my stress. That may even be in a field where they're dealing with more children than I deal with, right? So then you have to back up and be like, hey, I'm going to respect their 2 cents. I'm going to respect their perspective. And maybe I learn from them rather than me trying to force them into learning. Now, you're still a leader of your department. There's still this angle and this vision, this organization, and all this stuff that we all need to be on the same page about. And if he's a good leader, then he's going to submit. So that's not an issue. The point is, number one, is get a gauge of how good of a leader they are. What is their status? Are they high, medium, or low? All right. So then that helps me to kind of decide if I want to utilize any of the following resources. Number one is big conferences that I'm already attending. That's right. Big conferences I'm already attending. I enjoy the Next Gen conference. I enjoy Orange Conference. There's other conferences I've been to that I was like, meh about, that I'm never going to go back to. And there's other conferences I've been to that I was like, ugh, that I learned what I don't like today. Now, can you learn something from everything? Sure. But then we put all the pieces together, like, what do I love about a conference? And will I go back to it for all those reasons? That, my friends, is what I recommend. And if I recommend it to you, I'm going to bring my leaders to that. That's right. I'm going to bring my low capacity, my medium capacity, and my high capacity leaders to come with me. And I want them to enjoy the things that I'm enjoying and being a part of the things that I'm a part of, and learning some of the new things and getting ideas. And what happens is, on the ride back, always, even my boss does this with us. We go to these conferences with just the pastors, and he always asks, oh, well, guys, what did you learn in today's sessions? That's exactly how he sounds. Yep, he sounds just like that. So that would be my number one, is to bring them to something you're already going on. Now, another positive about doing that is that many of those types of conferences, like NextGen, like Orange, they already have tracks that are designed for the novice leaders or the quote-unquote volunteers. Yeah, they have tracks just for them. Sometimes when I go to these things, I don't really want to go to the worship pastors thing over there because, one, I'm not a worship pastor. I don't really want to go to the first-time kids pastors thing because I'm not a first-timer. I'm trying to look for things that I need to learn or need to get a grip on or need to get better at. Not to say that I wouldn't go to the worship one, because I've gone to the worship one when it was led by someone that I highly respected, and I wanted to learn his heart. I wanted to learn about his thinking. Right? That's a whole different mentality when approaching a resource. It's not just learning the topic, but learning how to think like the leader that is teaching that topic. Ooh, and that will preach, my friends. All right, let's move on. Number two is your small scale meetings. Invite them to your small scale meetings, like your local meetings with your section, your local meetings with your district, your local meetings with other pastors. Bring them along. And when they ask, who's this guy? Just say, he's my intern, he's my Padawan, he's my apprentice, whatever. If you think they can learn from this small scale meeting, invite them. If they're available, invite them. If it's free or cheap, invite them. If it's expensive, invite them, right? The only way a low capacity leader is going to learn is by being involved. All right. In soccer, because for those of you that don't know, I coach soccer on a lot of levels. And I do not believe soccer drills teach teams how to get better. They teach individuals how to get better at a drill. Drills don't win games. Goals in the back of the net win games. So when you start to think like a leader, it affects how you approach training and resourcing. So I'm always putting my high capacity players in the same group and having them play in scenarios over and over and over. They play. They get their speed of play up. They get their speed of decision making up. They get all that stuff up so that when they play in a real game, that's what's up. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up. And so the same is true with developing your leaders, is getting them up to the same speed. Inviting them to the same things that you're at. Because remember, your goal isn't to make them better at being a low capacity leader. Your goal is to watch them become better than you. And if you do that with all your leaders, you're going to have a poppin' ministry, my friends. Poppin'. And so let's go to the next one, is network training. You might be involved with a network of sorts, maybe a district, section, whatever. And it's not just a meeting of similar pastors or similar leaders. It is a network training event. It was designed to bring your volunteers. So bring your volunteers. It was designed to bring your staff pastors and your stipend leaders. So bring those peeps. Yes, network training opportunities. The next I would consider and recommend is your own training. Yes, you write your own training. You know your leaders best. You know what they need to learn. And an excellent example of this is last year, we did a training specifically on how to manage problem childs or problem children. Yeah. And I didn't even teach it. You want to guess who taught it? It was my guy, Mr. Daniel, because that's what he is an expert at his real job, is he works with kids who have challenges, and he helps navigate that in a classroom setting, and he deals with it on a regular basis. So who better to teach that than me? That guy. And we invited our entire team to come learn this. And several people showed up, and they learned how to handle children who are misbehaving, or children who are outspoken, children who are distracted, children who need STEM, children who need whatever, while you're trying to lead a class. And he helped them be successful. And so it's been less and less of a problem since that training. And it might be something that we revisit annually, along with our other annual type things. Or we're going to throw into a podcast or something so that our leaders can just listen when they are ready. If you're listening now, way to go. Boom. All right. Next is books and podcasts and masterclass videos. Yeah, recommend it. You have books that you love, books that you're learning from. One book that I'm always recommending is Extreme Ownership by the Navy SEALs guys, Jocko or Juco or something. And I want to recommend the audio version of that book. It is great. And then podcasts, much like this one or other podcasts. There's all kinds out there, and you can learn. If you're learning something, send that to someone else. If you're watching masterclasses, even from masterclass.com, or if you do your own masterclass, which I do for my team, send it, share it, do it. Now, there was a time in my ministry where I kind of hoarded that knowledge. I hoarded those resources. Like, I wanted to be the smartest leader among the leaders. I wanted to know more than them. I've gotten older. I've grown up a little, and the Holy Spirit smacked me on the head a couple times. And that was a challenge in one of my years of growth, was learning to be eager for my team to grow, and to not be stingy and selfish about the knowledge I had, about the wisdom that was in my pocket. And one of the reasons why I'm starting this podcast was to say, hey, I don't want to hoard this no more. I want you to have it. And here it is. So boom. So if you're learning stuff, I want to recommend whatever you're learning from, share that. Books, podcasts, masterclass videos, whatever. And lastly, subscriptions. There are all types of subscriptions. We have subscriptions to magazines, subscriptions to master classes, subscriptions to websites with articles, subscriptions with special perks. There are subscriptions to all sorts of things. And if you actually type into Google kids ministry subscriptions, some of the top things that come up are curriculum-based, article-based, like from Grow, from let's actually look here. We have Grow Curriculum, we have Think Orange, we have Group Publishing. I remember back in the day, I would have subscriptions to magazines that was specifically for kids in youth ministry. So yeah, if you're involved with all that stuff, share that. Give it to those guys and make it happen. So that's what I got for you on this episode of Kids Podcast. And if you have questions, hit me up. Everybody say, bye, Pastor Juan. Thank you for listening. Smash those like buttons, turn the bells blue, or whatever the kids are doing these days. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little people to one day become big people. You can find older archived podcasts on our YouTube channel and support what we do at rongaleministries.com. Enjoy!